This next talk is Natalia Semenova, and it's titled, Don't Water Your AI Security Framework's Garden. Give it up for Natalia.
No? So, okay, now it's better. So my name is Natalia Semenova. I have about 14 years of experience in cloud security, and last 3 years I was developing my competences in the field of AI security as a cloud security architect. So during this short presentation, I would like to talk about, first of all, why would you want to do any security controls mapping against any of the currently published AI frameworks? Secondly, how can you benefit if you already have some security controls mapped to any known frameworks? And what resources you can use in practice to achieve this goal. So basically, there are two approaches to do the control mapping, or the mixture of both. One is just compliance-oriented, when you work in specific industry and you are under some standards and regulations. And the second is when you are just trying to understand where you have any gaps and how you can improve your security posture. In that case, you can pick up any of the frameworks such as NIST, the Cloud Security Alliance framework, or MITRE attack. In case of AI, it would be MITRE ATLAS. So when it comes to the practical application, most of the companies I have seen while working as a cloud security consultant have the entire garden or zoo of those mapped frameworks. That's why I called it like a garden. So sometimes they start with getting ISO certification 27000. And so they have to perform this mapping, but then they go partially into cloud. Then they say, okay, we can do CSA frameworks mapping, or most of the cloud providers now have CIS benchmarks, and that comes just for free with the security dashboard. Why don't we do this as well? Then also MITRE, because it's one of the few action-oriented frameworks, which actually shows you how attackers can inflict any harm to the system. So in the end, you have such a table where every row is some kind of security control that's present in your cloud, and the column represents the framework. So with AI, it gets even more complicated, because there are currently a lot of standards. I named just some international, so ISO basically. But apart from this, there are a bunch of national standards. So the link in the bottom of the slide provides you the mapping that was done by NIST, and that maps AI risk management framework to British standards, to European Union standards, and I think also to Japanese. So you can see, based on your geography, you have a selection. Then some of those standards are still in the development phase, so I have highlighted in bold those that have been already published and have some kind of playbooks attached to them, so we can speak on the matter. So let's say you have some kind of cloud security mappings and you want to introduce this ISO risk management framework. Where should you start? So from my experience, I would recommend to understand the scope of the problem first. So the AI in each organization means different thing. So this table was taken from AWS, but there are very similar scoping available from other providers. So you can see that the scope 1 is just some kind of AI application that you get as a service. You don't care what kind of model it is using at this point. You just have some nice interface to perform your task. And on the other side of the scope is scope 5, when you have a team of data scientists, when you should collect all the data, then build initial model, train it, and then develop this model. So that is like everything. So in the cloud terms, it's infrastructure as a service, or even bare metal versus software as a service. Some examples how you can depict what you can control and what you cannot control is this. Here you are controlling what is in violet, so you control the app and you control your data, and obviously you control what kind of input prompts you can forward to this application. But what you don't control is training data and some kind of pre-trained model. Let's say you got it from Hugging Face or from some well-known provider. So what's on the left is what makes sense to map your security controls against. Doesn't make sense to map anything against what you don't control. And just another example, when you have the full-blown MLSecOps in your cloud. So that's again pretty much AWS SageMaker. So you have the manual experiment steps where you usually manual experiments are partially outside of the cloud, so it's something that data scientists are discussing and so on. But I put in gray areas several elements like feature store, GitHub repository, metadata storage, and the model registry, which is essentially also a storage. So those are elements that you are probably familiar with if you are protecting the cloud. So how do you map security controls against the storage? So probably some identity and access management, network segmentation, maybe row-level security, depending on what kind of storage there is. So you can also depict your architecture of whatever AI ML you have and select the components for which you need to check if you already have security controls mapped, or maybe you have a mapping gap here. So just to sum it up, right now in the middle, first you need to understand if you need to map for compliance or you need to map for security posture analysis. Then you need to understand the scope, how much mapping you need to have. So only map your what you control. Everything besides this, it's more for supply chain security, so it's a little bit different topic. Then if you analyze that you have some gaps and something is not mapped, it makes sense to perform mappings for those elements. And the most important, so you can select a number of already published AI frameworks. And if you don't want to do the extra work of mapping, you can see if there is already existing crosswalk that is published for the mapping that you have, like Cloud Security Framework from NIST or like CIS benchmark, and this specific AI standard. One example, so that is what I found when I was researching my my task of mapping the MLSecOps controls. Here is something that we already had, the NIST CSF. And MITRE ATLAS is a new set of tactics and techniques that complements MITRE ATT&CK for the AI-based systems. So now we know, okay, this is a cloud control security mapping to CSF, and now just add the third column to this list, and you have the good basis to continue your work. So there are some more mappings that I have found that are available for the entire community, so you can say that they are pretty much verified or at least open for feedback. One of them is published officially by NIST. There is a playbook where they explain step by step how to map whatever is in this RMF, for example, to NIST Cloud Security Framework. Then there is an entire repository which is made by MITRE, and it contains cloud security mappings for the three major cloud providers, so AWS, Azure, and GCP. You can use this as an example. So this is the mapping to MITRE. You can enrich it with MITRE ATLAS, and then you get like everything mapped. Then OWASP Exchange is a good source of information about new mappings or new standards. You can, so if you are not relying currently on NIST Cloud Security Framework, but instead you have ISO or you have CIS benchmarks, you can also use existing resources. Again, all from reputable vendors like Microsoft itself publishes this mapping, or CIS is the organization who actually maintains those CIS standards. But that's basically not all, because when I was attending some other conference, there was a section of startups that says, hey, we have this fancy new product. It can basically scan your cloud and map all the AI-related controls to something, to any existing standard. And I would take it with a grain of salt, because if you visit the website AI Standard Hub, which is a community that tries to collect everything that's related to AI regulation by industry, there are currently more than 300 of different standards. So I don't think that any particular product, even from a large company, not to say the startup, can actually work with those 300 standards. So if you are interested in what kind of standards exist for your particular industry, such as healthcare or finances, and which of them are in development. So you can see in the bottom, you can also filter by open for comment or free to access. Then you can use the site. I found it quite good organized. So yeah, and with this, I'm open to questions and answers.
Questions? Anyone?
In terms of enterprise customers, how can we guarantee that their private data doesn't leak out to the public domain?
So do you mean that you're the customer of some software as a service AI application? So you want some guarantee that whatever you supply to this application is not being leaked, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let's say using a Copilot or any other products, so using the LLMs, and then you have your private data, and you want to refine the, when you're doing, you want to refine the data sets to yours to get a better results, right? So, but you don't want your IP or your private data to leak out to the internet, right?
So one solution to it would be to use so-called RAG, augmented generation, when your data never leaves your premises. I think Copilot definitely supports this technology. So when you don't copy your data to this enterprise application, it's solely your responsibility to assign appropriate access rights. And in that case, you can almost 100% guarantee, if there is, of course, no covert channel when this application is trying to siphon something, like there was some rumors about this, not about Copilot, but about some
I'll give you an example.
applications.
A couple of months ago, Samsung stopped their development team using AI for a while because some of their IPs were going to the public, right? You heard of that particular incident?
Yes, but there was a case that instead of using this augmented generation, they were just posting their questions in the publicly available ChatGPT. So that's an organizational measure. So your like employees should know that for all the questions, that should use a particular platform like Copilot, and they should not use ChatGPT. Of course, you cannot completely prevent it, but you can train your employees to do so.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. So when we say Gen AI today, it frequently means LLMs, but there are like other flavors like image generation, video generation, and a bunch of other models. So those standards, do you see that they are like universal, or they're also tailored to LLMs only?
Most of the ISO standards are universal, so because they speak more about the models themselves. How the model should behave, what kind of data model should take as an input, and like explainability of the model. But there are some standards that are tailored specifically to Gen AI. I know that Cloud Security Alliance is now working on some foundational documents that have more nuances.
This is a little more inside the process, but have you been experimenting and becoming a domain expert in using large language models? Have you found any useful cases or maybe anti-cases in using LLMs to read and ingest these specifications and requirements and regulations to understand how they differ and how they've been changing? To what degree are you able to use any of these tools to track the changes in the requirements and turn them into compliance requirements?
So I would say this requires lots of prompt engineering, because Gen AI tends to summarize everything quite neatly on first sight, but then you are missing some important yes, but. So in my experience, Gen AI, I wouldn't trust it 100%. I would trust it to summarize some kind of meeting or webinar on the topic, but not to make any kind of legal advisory.
Any more questions?
Do you hope that will still be your answer next year?
Sorry, what?
Next year, do you hope to have the same answer?
It develops quite quickly, I would say, but who knows? Maybe like in 3 years, if we are not overwhelmed by the number of standards that are themselves AI generated.
All right, everyone give it up for one more.
There was an advertisement from MasterCard that they're using Gen AI for fraud alerts. So they're using it already to notify customers, hey, this particular transaction is fraudulent. Did you do it? Can you notify?
So that is, to be honest, it's my pain point. I've been blocked by several banks just because of this. And when I called their support, the human operator said, we are not able to override the decisions of AI. I mean, are you conquered by robots or what? So I had to go to another bank in the end, but I don't know. Maybe this another bank would be also using Gen AI.
All right, everyone, give it up for Natalia.